Hey there, my name is Morten. I'm the co-founder of FlashDocs, and I'm here to show you how to upload a template or a library through FlashDocs. So you can do it in two ways. You can either do it through your dashboard or you can do it here through the API. So I'm going to show you the API first, and then we'll come into the dashboard to show you how to do it through the dashboard. Now, if you go into the API and you go to API references, you'll find that down here we have two different post calls, one for Google Slides and one for PowerPoint. I'm gonna show you how both of them works, and I'll focus mainly on PowerPoint, but they're essentially following the same type of logic. So what you can do in here is that you can basically go in and you can just add the file that you want to upload. If you're using Google Slides, instead of a file, you will upload a Google document link. Then you can also set whether you want to reset the text boxes. That can be either true or false. If it's false, then you would have to manually go in and tell us what are the different placeholders that you want for text boxes. If you set this to true, then we'll automatically go in and find all the different text boxes and then add placeholders to them. I'll explain in a few minutes like how that actually works and how those two methods differ. But essentially, if you select this to true, then you can do it completely programmatically. You can totally automate the entire flow, so users can automatically upload their slide decks and you don't have to touch them. If you have this false, it gives the users more control over what are the different elements that you would want to automate, but it does require like some manual sort of setup, a bit of a human in the loop, whereas this can be completely automated. So pros and cons with both different solutions here. The other thing that you have to decide when you upload is the document type. So there are two different values for the document type. There's a template and there's a library. A template is basically a fixed structure for a slide deck, meaning that if you have a demo deck where you want the same 10 slides to show again and again, and you want the same, the pricing slide to be on slide number 4 and the, next step slides to be on slide number 9, and then you upload that as a template. It will always give you the same sort of outline, the same sort of structure of the deck. If you upload a library instead, the library basically lets you go in and upload say 100 slides, and then we'll find the most relevant slides for whatever prompt or whatever input you provide us. So the library is very flexible. You can essentially just have the user create custom decks with whatever structure that they imply in their prompt. Or you can use the template, which again has a fixed structure, all the elements in the slide up front. So those are the two different ways. So what do I do if I have a slide deck that I want to upload? So I'm just going to go into PowerPoint, and I have this deck that I've used for a strategy seminar that I want to, make into a FlashDocs template. So the only thing that I need to do here is basically decide whether I want FlashDocs to do the placeholders for me or whether I want to do it manually. I'm just going to show you how to do it manually because that's really sort of the other thing is pretty easy, right? So here I'm just going to, in square brackets, put title. I don't have to follow any specific naming convention, so I can really just put whatever, but it is sometimes like helpful, at least for me personally, to name it something that I can actually sort of remember. But you can obviously use different types of, taxonomy to whatever your preference, different types of IDs. This is literally like an ID for us, so that's why we need it. You can also embed it into sentences. So for instance, if you wanted to say, I need strategy for to always show up, but I want, this to be quarter, and then this to be client name, for instance, like so. So that way we now have like inside of this text box, we now have like multiple different placeholders. So I'm basically just going to go through the deck and then add all of these placeholders throughout the deck. Now, when it comes to things like places where you have multiple of the same type of placeholder on the same slides, like here where you have, 3 boxes for how, you want to make sure that each of these are unique. Because again, we treat it as an ID, which also means that if you have the same thing that you want to replace with the same data multiple times in the same slide, it's really easy to do that. You just give it the same ID. So for instance, if we want to change client name throughout an entire slide, then you can just basically say client name multiple places and it will use the same value across all those different placeholders. However, if you in this case want to make sure that these come up with 3 different sort of, hows in this case, then instead of doing something like this, where you basically have an identical ID, there's no way for us to differentiate between these different ones, you would want to make sure that they're unique. The last thing that you would want to do is that if you have any images, like in this case, we have these nice looking images here, I would want to make sure that these are dynamic as well. So what I can do here is that I can basically add an alt text. So I basically would go in and I will select view alt text. And then here I'm going to give this a unique text as well. You can do this for images. You can also do it for things like logos. So a really good way of just setting up your entire deck. Now you can see I sort of messed it up. We'll just do like this. Great. When your deck is ready, you have all your placeholders in. It's good to upload. You basically just want to hit save, and now we can go back into my API here, and I can then run this post request. I'm basically just going to go in here. I'm going to drop my file like this. I'm going to choose whether it's a template or a library. We'll basically just choose template in this case. Call this strategy deck. We can add a presentation or a description as well. So we'll just call strategy quarterly strategy deck. And that's basically it. So now if I run this request, you'll see that we'll then start uploading the deck. Once we're done uploading, what you will have is that you basically will have an entire document that will show up in your dashboard, and you can also list it here from the API. It will have, for each slide, meta description that helps us find the right slide when you're using the library function. So when a user said, I need a pricing slide, we'll know what are your different pricing slides. The standard meta description that we use is a general description of the slide that typically will describe things like, this is the layout, we have an image, we have boxes, we have whatever. Then there's use cases for the slide, meaning that, what is the type of slide you would want to use this layout for. So it could be like a pricing slide. Then the second or the third item that we have is what type of deck would this be helpful for? So if you, for instance, upload a thing like a pricing slide again, it could be helpful in a sales deck. Now you see we got a successful response back. We have a document ID here, which is really important. So if you ever wanted to create slides using this specific document, you can call this document ID. I can also go in and now see the document in my library. So if I just refresh my dashboard right here, you will now see that we have the strategy deck that shows up right here in this overview. You can also use the list function in the API to get these documents. And again, when you want to generate slides, you can use the slide ID to generate the slides using your source document ID right in here. If I go in and I look at the document configuration, I'm just going to click here. I can see that we've added a layout description, again, that describes the layout. There's a photograph of a person running. That's very much true. You can see here we've identified all the different placeholders, and we've automatically generated text to populate these different placeholders. So quarter, it understands that this is the either Q1 or Q2 or Q3, and so on and so forth. We can always go in and change these. You can do this from the API as well. But if I said, I actually want this to be specify quarter and year, and I want to do Q1 2024, Q2 2024, Q3, and like so, then basically I can add that as well. I can also adjust the minimum and maximum length. We'll automatically infer from the slide how many characters we can fit in, or what seems most logical in the case like this, where we have a quarter inside a sentence where you could fit many more characters, but we sort of think that 10 characters would be good for a quarter, which sounds reasonable. Now, for all the images, you can also see that these have been added as well. You can go in here and change the type. So if we wanted this to be the company domain, we can use that type, or you can use image URL. If you do use image URL, you can actually go into your post request for generating slides, and you can insert the URL of the image placeholder right here, so it populates with the right image. So I hope that's helpful. That's basically how you set up templates, libraries. Same thing for Google Slides and PowerPoint, same logic with the different placeholders. Once you've set it up, you can always go in and find the list of your different document configurations. You can get the full data for the document configuration. You can update it, and you can also delete it as well. Everything is based on that document ID that we got before, both when you want to do any of these functions or when you want to generate some slides. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much. Cheers.